All right, you guys, it is Friday the 13th. And there are these pivotal moments that we are all going to look back on and realize that we've crossed over a line that we can never, ever take back. Unfortunately, they are now admitting that they are flying Reaper drones over the protests. Reapers, Predator drones are now orbiting U.S. soil. Things are happening pretty fast, aren't they? As it's apparent that we failed to convince people that the protests were always just a cover to bring the military onto American soil. It's now official. The New World Order is now flexing in plain sight. The precedent has been set. And if you hadn't heard this story by now, Nations Conspire YouTube channel, which is Call for an Uprising, covered this in a video yesterday, as one of the talking heads got up and literally said it's completely within our legal right to fly military drones over American soil. We've been doing it from time to time, and there's nothing to see here. We're just monitoring. So now you know what all those gas explosions were. They weren't really gas explosions. They were targets. And now they can deploy silent weapons in plain sight. Radiation beams, frequencies, and silently take out all dissent. And when all this starts to happen under the next Democrat president, people simply say, oh, that's because the Democrats are coming after the right, instead of realizing that it was Trump who crossed the line first. Because today, it's illegals, but tomorrow, they will enforce the mark. They will lay down micro-dosing chemtrails. They can start fires. They can enforce a mandate. If there ever becomes a vaccine mandate, they can enforce water bans. They can enforce a ban on hunting if they deem that we should no longer be taking wildlife. And if you don't imagine a scenario where you might need to hunt, then I can't help you. Because when the stores start closing, or when they say meat is unsustainable, people are going to want to get meat out of the woods. But with these predator drones flying high overhead, keeping an eye on everybody, with their heat-seeking technology, you won't be able to do any of these things. They can enforce whatever they want with 100% accuracy. And this all happened because we allowed them power on American soil under the guise of keeping us safe from illegals. And if you think you're not doing anything wrong now, you just wait until they start passing unfair laws. Because that's when all this is going to happen. So what do we do about it? Not much we can do now. We had our window of opportunity to snap people out of the right-left paradigm and get them to understand that this is all a game. It's amazing how brilliant the people that control us are and how they're able to manipulate us into submission through division. Despite warnings from channels like this, they were able to get here through immigration by pitting American citizens versus immigrants, just like we said they would. Let's go back to February 23rd, of this year. Here's what I said was going to happen. Let's listen. We've got drones now flying on our border. CIA drones inching closer and closer to American surveillance disclosure. They're already doing it, but they can't tell us they're doing it yet. So they're just over the border, so we're supposed to believe, flying military drones to root out meth and fentanyl labs. And we think that magically they're going to turn the camera off when they fly 5 or 10 miles north of the border just to protect our privacy and freedom? Of course they're not. Of course they're not. They're probably surveilling all the border towns on our side of the border and to root out meth and fentanyl labs, right? Now, let's go to the story, because this precedent is what they needed for the final incursion on American privacy. Pretty soon it'll just be ubiquitous with American life. People just won't care anymore seeing the drones flying overhead, and we will be in the Terminator scenario. Americans will just accept it. Why? So they can have security. And I told you before that the border issue would be the segue to that. They were using the border to incrementally inch closer and closer to dissolving every last bit of privacy we've had. CIA uses drones to sniff out cartels and fentanyl labs in Mexico. And notice how they word this. These are the big clues, you guys. They've been conducting surveillance flights with drones over Mexico in partnership with U.S. neighbors to the south. So they're making it look like they're working together with Mexico. Okay, so it's no big deal. Mexico says they're okay with this. To gather intelligence on cartels and fentanyl laboratories, the Biden administration authorized the use of the MQ-9 Reaper drones, which the official said are not armed and not lethal. So there's more softening of the severity of what this really means. Oh, they're not armed. They're not lethal. They're just surveillance drones. So here we go. It's happening, you guys. It's happening. Now, this next story is crazy. We'll put a link to that video from 4 months ago in which we warned about the exact scenario that's happening right now. And this image on your screen sums it up. This is from the movie 2073. And this is literally happening right now. With drones, reapers against the wildfire skies. In this movie were deportations, Palantir, border control, protests, the surveillance state. Literally happening right now. It's not conspiracy anymore. And that's what the show is going to be about today. The woman in this film, 2073. We're going to talk about her. She was the PRECOG from Minority Report. This is her here. And this is her in the PRECOG waters. And after yesterday's show, I thought, what should I talk about tomorrow? Well, I had this woman who played the PRECOG in Minority Report. I had her pulled up in my tabs. Now, what were the PRECOGs? Just to give you a quick synopsis. Now, we're going to get into all kinds of stories today. So we're not just going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the India flight, the sole survivor. We're going to talk about Israel and Iran and all that at the end of the show. But this is vitally important as well. I pulled up the PRECOG because I was like, that's weird. Like literally the Minority Report scenario is happening. And the 2073 scenario from the movie is happening, and the same woman appears. Well, let's take a look at this woman and the other two PRECOGs that are sitting in these waters. Now, what did the PRECOGs do? They were the source of how they knew when a crime was about to happen. They had precognition. And they had them hooked up to these wires. And then it would etch a ball, kind of like a lottery ball, with the exact address of where they're supposed to go try to find this crime before it happens. The ball then was dispensed. Tom Cruise picked up the ball and rushed to the scene before the murder happened. And this is exactly the technology that Trump just launched through Project Gotham. with Palantir. They use our private data, they punch it into an algorithm, and they themselves say that they're going to determine who is likely to commit a crime. Pre-crime minority report is happening right now under our quote unquote conservative president. Let's take a look at Samantha Morton, the pre-crime queen, the PRECOG pre-crime queen. Casey, you just make up all this stuff. What are you on about? She was born in 77, which is that twin Trump number. And she also played Queen Mary in the movie The Golden Age. And she was born on the 133rd day of the year, May 13th. Another twin number. Now remember that 133, because what I'm going to tell you next is going to blow your mind. I thought maybe I should look at the other two precogs, right? Because no one ever talks about them. So I looked up the other two precogs in the movie Minority Report. And of course, they were twins. Matthew and Michael Dickman played the other two precogs in that pool of water. And they are both 7 times 7 years old. Remember, Samantha was born in 77. There are more connections here. Because not only were they born on 7 times 7 years old, they were born on August 20th. Hope you're sitting down. The 233rd day of the year in leap years, with 133 remaining. So we have the twins, 33 and 33, and we have Samantha, the last precog, born on the 133rd. What does 3 33s equal? 99. Do you see now how I'm not making up all these birthday things? This is real. They're using Kabbalistic magic to cast every single mainstream movie to predictively program our future. This is a perfect trifecta. A perfect trifecta in the movie Minority Report. Wow. Now, if you still are not convinced, I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do next? He's like, Casey, look at the number of days between the twins' birthdays and Samantha's birthday. And let's just go into the chat because, I mean, there are times when I'm just blown away. This is one of those days. I'm almost speechless. How many days do you think are between the precog Samantha and the twins, the Dickman twins? Let's see who gets the answer. Just take a wild guess. Just take a wild guess. Casey, you're cynical. Is anyone else covering this kind of stuff? Why isn't this mainstream? We've literally cracked the code of how they cast these people in films. This should be billions of people seeing this. That's why I get cynical. 66, 88. Nope. Just take a wild guess. You're close. 88's the closest. Remember, there's 3 of them. The trifecta. Somebody's going to get the answer. No, it's a slam dunk. Like if it was keep going up. Remember, there's 333s. I just gave it away. 99, Vic got it. Bingo. Here's the two birthdays. May 13th to August 20th, 99 days. The three precogs confirmed. And this is why you hear me get frustrated sometimes, because still people are in denial. This is like scientific evidence almost at this point. So yeah, I do get a little edgy sometimes when it comes to the naysayers. But let's get into some of these headlines, you guys. That was what I wanted to show you on the PRECOG Minority Report Matrix, undeniable evidence of where we're at now. RFK Jr. just fired a bunch of people at the CDC that he felt were standing in the way of them getting to the bottom of the vaccines. And guess who he hired? A bunch of controlled opposition truthers. So how's this all going to shake out? Well, here's the deal. If this was real and put one of us on the panel, we would have gotten down to the bottom of it. We would have shown the statistics and the numbers and the proximity of people dying after something, right? Perfectly healthy people. We would get down to the bottom of this and heads would roll, wouldn't they? Because millions of Americans have been affected by this. There would be criminal charges, but I ain't holding my breath. Let's read. U.S. Health Secretary RFK Jr. named 8 new V-word policy advisors to replace the panel that he abruptly dismissed earlier this week. They include a scientist who researched mRNA technology and became a conservative darling for his criticisms of the VidCo-19 smacked the nation. A leading critic of the lockdowns and a professor of operations management. Kennedy's decision to retire the previous 17-member advisory committee on immunization practices has widely decried by doctors, groups, and public health organizations who fear the advisors would be replaced by a group aligned with Kennedy's desire to reassess. Now this is interesting. This is a complete and total rope-a-dope. And I have no idea what their strategy is here, because you have to be a diabolical psychopath to come up with some of these scenarios of how they divide us, right? This all sounds fantastic, doesn't it? It sounds like we're getting somewhere. But what will be the end scenario? What will it be? We'll have to figure this out. I don't know what it is going to be. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play this one out. I pretty much called the whole drone thing over U.S. soil. I knew how that was going to play out because I knew that they were weaponizing the illegal situation to encroach on our freedoms. But this whole thing with the V word, I have no idea what they're up to. What are your guys' thoughts? What do you guys think the long con is on RFK Jr.? Let's get your answers here. And then guess what's happening now? Okay, I want to be clear here. I agreed with deporting all illegals, just not the way that Trump's doing it, and how he's also flexing his posse comitatus and encroaching on American freedoms while getting it done. And so I never wavered from that, right? Well, guess what? Trump now says he's going to go easy on illegals who work in the fields. So now he's talking about amnesty. Can you believe this? Let's take a look. Oh, before we hop off of RFK Jr., last thoughts on this. Thanks for all your opinions. Never forget, JFK Jr. was seen and tricked a lot of people into believing that he was on our side. So if we're to look at their playbook, then we could also agree that RFK Jr. could be playing a similar role. The one that stood against the machine. So don't get tricked, you guys. Don't get tricked. That's the purpose of this channel, is to try so that we don't get tricked, right? Let's take a look. You guys, these are weird times. Trump is flip-flopping. I've never seen a president flip-flop like this. Trump vows changes to immigration crackdown to protect migrant farmers and hotel workers. Wait. Let's play this.
They've worked for him for 20 years.
Wait.
Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not.
What? You guys, wake me up from this reality. This is insane. So on one end, he's literally weaponizing our military with Reaper and Predator drones flying over American soil and Marines boots on the ground and deporting as many people as they can every single day, tracking and tracing nonviolent illegals and claiming to go after the violent ones. And then now he says, oh, we're going to give the farmers and hotel workers a break. So what I just heard him say there was essentially, we might not deport them. Now, of course, the people on the hard right are really upset about this because they're like, you said you were going to get rid of all the illegals. Remember we joked about this? And I, right at the beginning of his term, and I said, you guys, it would take 20 years to deport every illegal alien at the rate that they're going. Because we calculated up, we did the calculation. We said it would take like 20 years. It's never going to happen unless they figure out a different way to do it, unless they put all these people on a giant barge or something. And here we go. He's starting to back the car out of the garage, as they say. Now, we'll see what happens because you can't even take him at his word about this because he could flip-flop again. We don't know what we're getting. Now, Friday the 13th is when Israel chose to attack Iran. Tehran strikes in Tehran in the capital. This is a huge escalation. They were able to take out the top military commanders, at least one, maybe two. They took out a bunch of nuclear scientists. Then Iran responded with a drone strike. Let's read this, you guys. Huge escalation. Israel attacked Iran's capital early Friday and strikes that targeted the country's nuclear program, killed at least two top military officers, raising the potential for an all-out war between the two bitter Middle East adversaries. Appears to be the most significant attack Iran has faced since the 1980s with Iraq. Simmering tensions over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program boiled over, and Iran quickly retaliated, sending a swarm of drones at Israel. As Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned of severe punishment. Countries in the region condemned Israel's attack, while leaders around the globe called for immediate de-escalation from both sides. Israel's military said about 200 aircraft were involved in the initial attack on 100 targets. Now listen to this next part, because they literally were able to smuggle in these weapons behind enemy lines. Because this is like a spy movie. Let's keep reading. Two security officials said the country's Mossad spy agency was able to position explosive drones inside Iran ahead of time and then activate them to target missile launchers at an Iranian base near Tehran. They said Israel had also smuggled precision weapons into central Iran, as well as strike systems on vehicles, which were activated as the attack began to hit Iranian air defenses. Wow, that is insane. So here we go. Here we go. Now, Missouri governor declares a state of emergency ahead of the protests. Here's the headline. If I could fix this. It says it's a precautionary measure. Let's get to this headline here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. There's the headline. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe activates the National Guard, declares state of emergency. Now, What this implies is that they are well aware that outside groups are being sent in to these areas. Now, I don't know, typically, in these states that are right leaning, I think Missouri's right leaning. I'm almost positive. It is the heartland of America. But you know how they draw the political lines, right? They make us believe that there's more liberal ideology than there really is. But if a state like this is concerned, then you got to wonder, okay, so we already know that they're shipping these people all around to start trouble. How easily people are manipulated, right? Wouldn't it be amazing if nobody showed up to this stuff? Then they would have to find their own soldiers, sell out soldiers to show up and be provocateurs, and then we would all know what's really going on, right? But instead, the people are so easily deceived. Like Nations Conspire channel said, they literally were advertising this on the mainstream media of exactly where to go, what time to show up, the map of all the cities. If the government wanted to, they could have shut that site down, like he said. He's absolutely correct. This is a honey trap all the way through. So now, Trump, let's go back to this Israeli strike because Trump actually warned about it. He spilled the beans like a couple days before it happened. He said, it could very well happen. He warned of a massive conflict in the Middle East, so that could be coming next. Maybe they're going to wipe Iran off the map. Who knows what these people are up to? It's pretty insane. Now, many of you asked me to talk about this Air India flight. There are certain stories I cover and others that I don't. I just rely on the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So don't get offended or upset if I don't cover it. There's plenty of other truth channels covering some of this stuff. But the only thing I really pulled out of this Air India flight and the sole survivor was that it did happen on 666, June 12th. And I looked up the sole survivor's name, and it literally means the Prince of God, whose faith gives confidence. It would take a god to survive this kind of wreckage, wouldn't it? Obviously, he's not a god. It's blasphemy, but the inference is there. Now, Casey, Trump hates China. No, he doesn't. Here's another huge flip-flop. Trump is now vowing to bring in 500,000 Chinese students. Let's read. It says in June 2025, reports indicated Trump administration announced a visa revocation policy targeting Chinese students. This is what he said first. But then there were conflicting statements that just came out yesterday. Social media posts from Trump welcomed Chinese international students to the U.S. He also stated that Chinese students using American colleges and universities has always been good with me. This seemed to contradict the previously announced policy, especially regarding a possible trade agreement with China. Wow. Let's play this video here.
On your China deal, Mr. President, are you still concerned about the national security issues with Chinese students studying in the United States?
Look, I've always been in favor of students coming in from other countries. That includes China. And we have 500,000 Chinese students coming in. I've always been in favor of it. Does it mean that you have to watch people? Yeah, you have to watch students, but you have to watch other people also. I've always been strongly in favor of it. I think it's a great thing. It's good for our schools. I think it's good for our country. I'm also in favor of having them stay. I've been in favor of letting them stay. If you get educated for 4 years, you're willing to get educated for 4 years. I like people being able to stay. You know, they have some great students. You have some, these are Republicans clapping, because a lot of Republicans don't like that.
Nobody signed up for this. China? Chinese students? Well, we already know what China has become.
I happen to like it. I'm a real Republican, believe it or not. But I like the idea. They go 4 years. To me, that's almost like, just buying your way in a very legitimate way. And, you have stories where Apple wants to hire somebody and they can't hire him because he can't stay. He went to a great school. He finished first in his class. They made him a big offer.
Well, let me tell you what's going on with these Chinese students, okay? They're going to need Chinese leadership. The more and more we become like China, we already know that there were Chinese police stations on Trump's watch inside New York. What do you think they were doing there? They were training our police on surveillance tactics. They probably chose the top Chinese police stations from China to come here to train our police stations on how to surveil. And so now here we are, and they need a whole generation of Chinese leadership. Mark my words. Within the next year or two, there will be more Chinese people in our government. Trump already invited them to the inauguration. Come on, you guys, we got to wake up. We got to stay focused. China was at the inauguration. This is escalating. Again, nothing against Chinese people, but we do have borders. And we do have a horrific human track record in China and surveillance state that we don't want coming here to America. To me, that's the biggest threat. I don't care about a lone terrorist because they can track that stuff. They can see someone, collecting bomb material and find that person before anything really bad happens. What's worse is the infiltration, the backdoor infiltration of our government and our country becoming like countries we claim to not like. That's the real threat. That's the biggest threat. But our own government is selling us out. Now, tomorrow is the National Day of Drama, right? The No Kings movement. And oh boy, is the media hyping this up. What they're doing, now let me be very clear here, is they are setting the precedent of control. The precedent for control of the National Guard is being played out before our eyes. This is all big fake drama, battle of the governor, the lowly brave governor against the bully president. And in the most recent developments, Newsom sued Trump. He temporarily had control of the National Guard. And then there was an appeal, and Trump got the National Guard back. This is what's been playing out. Both Newsom and Trump are playing their roles. They're setting the precedent of power. Now, why bother with all this? Why bother? Casey, how do you know for sure this is happening? Why bother? Why would they go through all this? Because this is a battle of the minds. And they know that the troops will follow orders that they believe were determined legally. So they have to pretend all this. The troops have no idea this is all a game. They just follow orders once they see it's been cleared in the courts. And if you don't believe me, zoom in on Gavin Newsom's face in the interview when he talks. And you could see the lies coming right through his eyes. You can almost see that he's reading a script, pretending to be tough on Trump because he has to, right? So that the people on the right will always side with Trump. They'll say, oh, Gavin Newsom doesn't know what he's talking about. We need Predator drones. We need Trump to send in the National Guards. We don't want our cities to burn. You see how this works now? It's all a script. If you don't believe me, where was Gavin Newsom when people's businesses were being shut down? When people were forced to stay home? When people lost their jobs? Where was he then when it came to tyranny? Nowhere to be seen. You will just do what we say. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor of California, said, screw your freedoms. So Newsom has to appear to be this tough guy because he's on the left. He's playing his role. And this whole thing is playing out, and the states have now lost their power over the National Guard. The precedent has been set that a president can take over the National Guard. Now, it's unreal to see all this playing out. We're in a very strange time, you guys. And I'm not trying to, cry wolf here, but we are living in very strange times. A lot of lines are being crossed. The technocracy is rising, and they're using the illegal immigration situation to get it done. If you took nothing away from today, that is what's happening. Now, the only way this information is going to reach anybody and give us any chance of raising the alarm bells to the asleep Republicans and asleep conservatives out there is if you talk about this video today. Wherever you go in our truth community, there's still a large section of the truth community that never comes to this channel. At least we got to start there. At least call people out like Joe Rogan who don't want to talk about all this. The more chatter there is out there about today's video, it will force these quote unquote truthers to address the situation. Is Joe Rogan talking about posse comitatus? Is Joe Rogan talking about drones flying over LA? Is he talking about the right-left paradigm? No. So there's still a lot of work to do. I understand that your family and friends aren't going to believe you. I get that. We've already crossed that bridge. But we're not even getting to the rest of the truth community, you guys. We're stuck over here in a corner. And so I'm putting a lot on the line here. Obviously, they know where I live. There's going to come a time where they use one of these silent drones with silent weapons, and I'm already feeling it. Silent weapons. You'll never even know what happened to me. I'll just be gone. All voices will be gone. And they'll just say he got sick, or he got cancer, or he had a heart attack. And then people will start going, wow, that guy actually told us the truth. He tried. He had skin in the game. He put it all on the line. And maybe we'll leave it at that. Anyway, I'm back in the chat. The drones are everywhere, but 7 years ago, they weren't. That was our chance. So many people warned, but there wasn't enough of a movement. The fake truth community took over, and the word never got out. Remember I told you, okay, let me point you to a specific video. Remember I was fishing a lot? This was 10 years ago. I was out on a dam, remember? And I was fishing for trout. And a drone flew right over where I was fishing. And remember how angry I was. I was like, you guys, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere on a dam. There's not a soul out here, and someone flying a drone at me. I want privacy. I don't want to be looked at. And I said, this will be our world one day. Did anyone believe me back then? No, they didn't. You're just being cynical. You're grandstanding. You're making all this up. You're just doing this for clicks and views. You're just trying to scare people. And now here we are. And remember I told you that they were originally just giving drones away like candy? Remember how cheap drones used to be? They wanted everybody to have a drone to play with. It was like the most popular birthday gift for children. Back in the beginning, you could get a drone for $100, $200. And now they have fancy drones that cost more, but you can still pick up a cheap drone for under $100. And I said, why are they giving this technology away? It's because they were normalizing us to it, because they knew what was coming. And now fast forward to 2025, and what do we have? We have drone swarms controlled by AI. With one joystick, they control thousands of drones all at once. They can fly them into targets. They got bombs on them, hide cameras. They've got heat-seeking technology. They've got thermal imaging. Did you ever think we would be here from that discussion we had on the dam 8 or 10 years ago? Now, I'm not saying that I know for a fact what the future is, but I think we do a pretty good job of providing the evidence to back up our statements, right? I'm not just crying wolf. I'm showing you the predictive programming of where they're steering us. So here we are. We've passed a red line, haven't we? Predator drones flying over American protests. What are they doing? They're capturing your face. They're putting you on lists. They're testing out their algorithms, facial recognition software. It doesn't matter if you're an illegal or an American citizen, because it's happening now. So anyway, I'm back in the chat. There is no going back to normal. Yep. All right. I know they've been doing it for decades, Snowball, but they're literally announcing on mainstream news that they're flying military drones over American soil, and people aren't even bothered by that, because that's the point of this. It's not that they weren't doing this all along. You know, I get a little upset when people try to minimize things, because that's part of the problem. The same people that won't talk about this channel on other truth channels. It's called nitpicking and backbiting. That's part of the problem. We have to acknowledge when these lines are passed, because that urgency is what gets other people to wake up. But if we're saying, "Oh, that already happened. Why are you so?" No, it's mainstream news. This is serious. Because now they're perfectly positioned. It's like a chessboard. The drones are in the sky, and now they can deploy silent weapons, and nobody will ever know. Whereas before they'd say, "You know what? That's a Reaper drone. We're not in Afghanistan. What the heck's going on?" And they call it in and they go, "I'm a little upset." And then it makes the evening news and the local news. And they go, "Oh, wow, our military's flying Reaper drones over protests. That's not right." But instead, they disclose it and nobody cares because of the right-left paradigm. So this is a battle of the minds. When you get people to stand up peacefully, you don't even have to go to a protest, and you say, "This is unacceptable." You get conservatives calling out our conservative leadership and saying, "This is not okay." That's how things change. Otherwise, all of the opposition is stuck on the other side under a false pretense. The Democrats are the ones telling the truth right now, but no one's going to believe it because they are the predetermined losers. His stuff is so clear to me, it hurts sometimes because I'm trying to communicate this, but very, very few people understand this. So, this is serious, you guys. All right. Well, probably be back on tomorrow. Not sure what we're going to cover, but just like we weren't sure what we were going to cover yesterday, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of disclosure. So we'll hop into that. I love each and every one of you. And this needs to be talked about, you guys. This is serious. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Much love.